Over 20 years of publication following the journey of one Monkey D. Luffy. And now we've made it. Chapter 1000. No big surprises or character reveals, but by no means an unexciting chapter. Hello, my Nakamatachi, this is Joy Girl with a review of chapter 1000 titled Strawhat Luffy. But before we begin, I want to wish everyone a happy new year. 2020 was tough for everyone all around the world, so I'm hoping that 2021 will be a better one with lots of joy to spread around. So I imagine that many of you have already read chapter 1000, so I'm sorry if this review feels a little delayed, but I always wait for the official translations and always wait for the official release, which was only released very early this morning in Australian time. But I assure you, this chapter was the hardest to wait for. And to mark this momentous occasion of us reaching the 1000th chapter of this great series, I thought it'd be a fun idea to record myself doing a reaction of the chapter, which I did record, but then upon which I found that watching this reaction was less fun, so I had to scrap the idea. But I did include bits and pieces to the end of this review, so if watching me react to One Piece is something that you're interested in, then please stick around. But first, let's start with the review. Firstly, the colour spread. As we discussed in the last chapter review, the colour spreads of chapters 999 and 1000 conjoined to make an updated version of the colour spread from chapter 100. So in this one, we have the remaining members of the Straw Hat crew, and along with Luffy and Nami, who were in the original cover page of chapter 100, we have the two newest members of the crew, Brook and Jinbei, in chapter 1000. Comparing between the original and updated cover pages, I felt a rush of nostalgia come over me. It's crazy to see how far the story has come. And I'm not just talking about the addition of 5 more crewmates, which indeed was amazing to see in the colour spreads, but mostly seeing the slight differences in the original 5, such as the scar on Luffy's chest as well as on Zoro's eye. It really hit me hard, because I was reminded of the fact that despite what a fun journey it has been, it has also been a really tough one that has forced our characters to grow. Which for me is what this chapter was really about ultimately. And on that note, let's review the chapter itself. Chapter 1000 is focused on the growth of Luffy, which makes sense because One Piece is Luffy's story after all. What did we expect? It's fitting that Oda focused this chapter on Luffy. Following the trend of some other milestone chapters, we were expecting big names in chapter 1000. Since in chapter 1 we were introduced to Roger, Dragon in 100 and then Rayleigh in chapter 500. But Oda aptly titled this chapter Strawhat Luffy, as if to tell us this name, Monkey D. Luffy, is bigger than any other you could think of. Within the story and the world of One Piece, the name Monkey D. Luffy is a legend in the making. So there were no world-shaking events, but instead, a preview into what could possibly be the greatest one in the One Piece story. And that is Luffy's growth. But at the same time, the same Luffy that we've come to know and love is still here. For example, similar to how he punched a sea creature in chapter 1, in chapter 1000, Luffy punched a fish. But before we get carried away, let's discuss the chapter in order because the chapter all over reminds us of the traits we love so much about this Straw Hat captain. The chapter opens with Luffy making his way to the rooftop from the 5th floor, which Inurashi's 3 musketeers have cleared the way for Luffy to advance. It's good to see that the trio have recovered from their blow against Jack. Speaking, there was no mention of Jack in this chapter, which does make me wonder and fear for how Jack is recovering, but I guess that's a problem for another chapter. In classic Luffy style, the Straw Hat captain has forgotten Shishilian's name, which is a running gag that I'll never get over. But on a more serious note, the exchange between Luffy and Shishilian is used to remind us of Luffy's determination in taking down Kaido, and Luffy's reminder to the musketeers of their grand actions in risking their lives to protect Raizo at Zou, as if to encourage them to give themselves more credit for their actions. Luffy may have forgotten their names, but has not forgotten their valiant efforts. The chapter then moves on to another stage where Marco is fending off both King and Queen. So we finally get a very short glimpse of not only an aerial battle, but also a battle between Yonko commanders. But what really caught my eye during this exchange is Queen's Zomen Form. In fact, Queen seems to be a cyborg, which will be interesting to find out whether he did this himself or was he part of a forced experimentation in the past. This could be linked to his personality and why he is an inventor of killing weapons himself. A link to Judge Vinsmoke will not be surprising at this point, since Queen has mentioned he is aware of the Vinsmoke family already, and if this is the case, then a battle with Sanji seems inevitable. Seeing Marco keeping both Kaido's calamities in a headlock was an impressive surprise. And this has me wondering whether this will continue to be a 2-on-1 battle, or will someone else, wink wink Sanji, join in on the fight? The one most concerned throughout this whole ordeal, however, seemed to be Zoro, who was catapulted to the rooftop through the open hole left by Big Mom. When Big Mom chose to break through the roof indoors, I did question in that chapter review why she didn't just fly up outside, but now we have the answer to that question. And this is what Oda was setting that up for. Zoro's reaction to this was another brief injection of comedy in what is otherwise quite a serious and heavy chapter, so this was quite appreciated. But we move on to yet another location on Nigashima where it seems Momo has now found out the meaning behind the Will of the D and has gained access to his father's journal. And whilst Momo must now hold the answers to a lot of questions, we are left with a new one. How did Odin's Journal even survive the fire at Kuri Castle? Now, as you guys may know already, I'm an avid believer that Toki is still alive, and the link to my video on why I think this is in the description box below, so please feel free to watch it after this video if you haven't already. But on that note, my first thought to this question is that Toki preserved her husband's journal. Because it must have been done by someone who knew of the journal's existence, its whereabouts, and was actually present prior to the fires being set alight. So the only two I can think of are Toki or Hiyori. Yamato mentions that he picked up the journal out of the river at the foot of Odin's castle. Toki may have escaped through the river. I mean, the water would have helped if she was partly burnt, and we saw Kawamatsu and Hiyori jump in after speaking to Toki. So it could have been Hiyori as well. And we can add this to the list of mysteries I'm keen to find out about in this arc. In any case, we get another flashback between Ace and Yamato, and this chapter was titled Strawhat Luffy, which is a very straightforward but meaningful title. But more than that, and these are just my thoughts, I think that like the color spreads, the titles of chapter 999 and chapter 1000 could be read together. In which case, the conjoined title would be The Sake I Brewed to Drink With You, Strawhat Luffy. Because even though it's a flashback of an interaction between Ace and Yamato, it centers mostly around Luffy and the two characters' belief in the young Straw Hat's dreams to become the Pirate King. It's heartwarming to see how fiercely protective Ace feels about his younger brother's dreams, and his big brother role can be really felt here, which is really sweet. But Yamato never doubted Luffy's words anyways, and his also staunch faith in Luffy is what makes me think that the titles are supposed to be read together, as an expression of Yamato, who has been waiting for Luffy ever since Ace left and then died. On another note, it was fun to see Yamato jumping up to show Ace Odin's journal. It was drawn very similarly to when Yamato was holding it up in the air, professing the journal to be his Bible to Luffy all those chapters ago. In fact, this chapter had a lot of callbacks, even if they weren't always very overt, to previous chapters. There were lots of things familiar or moments reminiscent of the past. For example, we find out that Yamato was the one who made Ace's Vivre card. And considering that Ace is the one who first introduced us to Vivre cards in the series in the Alabasta arc, it's a nice touch to find out it was actually Yamato behind it all. As if Yamato is someone who has always been fated to meet Luffy and help him. Things like this are what makes One Piece so great. Knowing the origins of Ace's Vivre card now, rereading that scene when Ace first hands Luffy his Vivre card will add a different flavor to my enjoyment of that scene, with a sense that Yamato has long been a part of Luffy and Ace's story together. My favorite part of this scene is when Yamato was telling Ace about this great man described in Odin's Journal, and Ace said that he wanted to have a drink with this great man, unbeknownst to him that this great man is actually his biological father. If the concept of heaven or an alternative afterlife exists in One Piece, I'd like to think that Ace and Roger are together, drinking up there, exchanging stories about their adventures, most likely with Ace talking about Luffy non-stop. Another interesting thing to note here is that Ace specifically notes that that's at the end of my brother's dreams. Coupled with the fact that when Luffy told his brothers about said dream, and similarly when Roger was talking to Whitebeard and Odin, both men were not shown finishing their sentences, which leaves the door open for some other possible dialogue other than "I'm going to become the Pirate King." Also remember that in Roger's case, this was before he was actually dubbed the Pirate King, a title given to him by the public. So, could this hidden dialogue be perhaps an extension of what could be achieved once one became King of the Pirates? But finally, the long-awaited second meeting between Luffy and Kaido. Reading this millennial chapter, and the last few pages in particular, I couldn't help but be reminded of how far we've come, and found myself constantly going back to chapter 1 for comparisons. If you read chapters 1 and 1000, you can really see how Luffy has grown and has come into his own. In chapter 1, Luffy is seen talking to another Yonko, or soon to be Yonko, Shanks, telling the redhead captain about how his punch is as strong as a pistol and trying to prove himself as a brave warrior. But in chapter 1000, Luffy is actually showing us his strength and his growth since the beginning of his journey. In both chapters, Luffy says that he's going to become the Pirate King. But in the first chapter, it feels very much more like a young man's dream. Too big for a little boy coming from a small village. A naive expression of his desire for adventure. Whereas now, at chapter 1000, Luffy is almost at the end of that adventure. He is now faced with arguably his biggest threat so far in his journey, standing in the presence of two fearsome Yonko, not just some local village sea monster. And his declaration rings true. Whilst at the end of chapter 1, Luffy declared his dream brightly with excitement. Here, he says it with fierce determination. It's not just a wild dream, but a promise. To himself, to his friends and brothers, and to us. And part of why this feels so believable now is because not only does this chapter show us Luffy's growth in the series in general, but also his development within the Wano arc itself. When he first encountered Kaido, it was when he witnessed the Yonko fire a bolo breath in the direction of his friends at Kuri Castle. Luffy, blinded by rage, went to attack Kaido head on, and we all know how that turned out. Whereas now, in this chapter, Luffy's character growth is evident. He is much more composed. And this composure is perhaps best shown when Luffy ignores the Yonko who are taunting him, walking right past them to care for Kinemon. Even seeing the Scabbards scattered on the floor completely defeated, Luffy is composed enough to tell Law to move them downstairs. Not to mention that Luffy was able to think of this mid Kaido's attack. And this shows us that Luffy now knows what to do. He's not childish nor brash. He actually looks like he belongs on this stage, standing face to face with two other Yonko. And true to his words, Luffy's attack is strong enough to force Kaido to the ground, surprising both Yonkos. To showcase another aspect of his development, back in his first fight against Kaido, you could argue Luffy was only able to force Kaido down due to a surprise attack. But this time, Luffy was able to achieve this feat whilst countering an attack from Kaido from behind. And we were gifted a glorious panel of a new Gear 3rd technique, Gomu Gomu no Red Rock, in which the rock refers to a mythical enormous bird of prey which was said to be up to 48 feet or over 14.5 meters long. This creature is considered large enough to carry whole elephants as prey, and considering that Luffy's Gear 2nd attack, Gomu Gomu no Red Hawk, is also named after a bird, it seems that Gomu Gomu no Red Rock is an improvement on his Gear 2nd technique, which leads me to assume that its mechanics are similar, but perhaps the improvement may be his incorporation of advanced armament haki. We have seen in recent chapters that he has been developing his Ryo, so it's more than likely that Luffy has enhanced his attacks with this newly acquired skill. And this double page spread of Luffy's attack on Kaido is amazing. The level of detail with Kaido fallen on the floor, having broken the ground to pieces, and with the flames all around his body. Meanwhile, the impact of Luffy's fist with the straw hat up in the air surrounded by smoke is a breathtaking panel. But what really caught my eye in those final pages is that tiny panel of Luffy's silhouette. Seeing Luffy's silhouette putting on his straw hat again reminded me of chapter 1, and the panel was very reminiscent of Shanks. But in reverse, because in that chapter, Shanks was taking off his hat, whereas now, Luffy, in a very similar manner, is putting the straw hat on, as if to symbolize that he has fulfilled his promise to Shanks that he is going to become a fierce pirate. In fact, there was a very strong Luffy/Shanks comparison in this chapter, what with Luffy in his awesome cloak, which I cannot get enough of, and in particular what he says to Kinemon, promising to avenge and protect his friends, which as we know is a lesson that was taught to him by Shanks in the very first chapter. But now it is Luffy doing the saving, simultaneously protecting his friends and fulfilling Ace's threat to Kaido, with Luffy punching Kaido in the same location where Ace burnt the dragon statue. The panel of Luffy holding kin with Kaido in the background coming to attack is very reminiscent of the situation at Marineford, where Ace sacrificed his life to save Luffy, but unlike back then and unlike in chapter 1, Luffy is the one saving his friends and protecting the will of his brother. A heavy burden to carry, but Luffy readily accepts, particularly after seeing his friends in that state. And personally, I was devastated at seeing the Scabbards like that as well. It was to be expected. I mean, they were facing off a Yonko and the strongest creature of the world no less. And the lack of their presence in the most recent few chapters did have me anticipating their defeat, but to actually see them defeated and wounded, not dead I think and hope, was just a really heavy sight. And Kinemon as the leader of the Scabbards, with the heaviest heart of all, feeling like he had let Odin down, was just heart-wrenching. But in saying that, I don't think this is the last we'll see of the Scabbards, and I think having them move downstairs wasn't only to show us Luffy's growth, but is setting us up for when they eventually recover and rejoin the war. Which I am very excited about because we haven't actually seen all of the Scabbards show off their abilities yet, so I am still very much looking forward to that. And speaking of battles I'm looking forward to, we can't not mention the setup between the Supernovas and the Yonko. Up on the rooftop along with Luffy are Law, Kid, Killer and Zoro, all of whom arrived before the Straw Hat Captain himself. The panels featuring the Supernovas on one side, facing the Yonko on the other was epic. With Yamato's words reminding us of Odin's prophecy, we see the worst generation members, the powerful pirates who will lead the world into a new era and take down Kaido. So much hype. The Supernovas lined up do indeed seem formidable, and with such an array of unique and extremely skilled fighting styles, I can't wait to see how they fight together, or more like fight over who gets to take down the Yonko. Big Mom and Kaido were also fantastically drawn. Big Mom in particular looked deliciously deranged, her tongue sticking out as if she can't wait to devour the brats standing in front of her. And with Luffy having slighted the Yonko in this chapter, at first ignoring them and then making first contact, I'm sure we're in for a mammoth of a battle, and I can't wait. Chapter 1000 was not what a lot of people were expecting, but Oda always knows how to exceed expectations, and he did not disappoint. It was such a meaningful chapter that made me feel both nostalgic and eager in anticipation at the same time. Seeing Luffy's growth has made me excited for his future all the more, and I can't wait for the war at Onigashima to continue to unfold. Which brings us to the end of this chapter review. But as I said, if you are interested, please stick around for some more reaction reels. And hello, it's me again. I hope you guys enjoyed chapter 1000 as much as I did. Please let me know what you thought of this big chapter by leaving a comment below. And if you enjoyed today's video, please like and share. And if you haven't already, please subscribe because we have plenty of One Piece goodness to discuss. Thank you very much to everyone who has been tuning in on this channel. I appreciate you all. And in saying that, I wish everyone had a very festive holiday season and that you all have an even better 2021. This is Joy Girl, and I'll see you again soon. And Luffy, I can never get over Luffy. And the way that he just mistakes everyone's names. Seems like Queen has something on his neck. What is that? Doesn't seem like it's just his Zoan dinosaur form. Seems like there's something more than that. I mean, I guess, you know, he invents a lot of weapons, so it makes sense. I guess he's created something to elongate himself to match up against King. That's crazy. So what's he doing? It seems like Marco sort of just has them in a headlock. And Zoro. That's funny. But somebody protected this journal. Toki? So it is, it's the supernovas. Oh, this is exciting. And another flashback. All right, another Ace and Yamato flashback. Yes. Yamato's doing that same Bible pose, you know. This is my Bible. Interesting. Oh, okay. Luffy's going up now. Oh, wow. Oh, I can't wait to see this animated. I can just hear it. I know it's like din, 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 din. I know that music's usually played for the Straw Hats, but I can just hear it playing in this moment. Look at that. Oh, look at Luffy walking past them. What are you doing, Luffy? Din, 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 din. Oh, Kin. Oh no, look at Kinemon. Oh, look at all the Scabbards. Yeah, this is pretty heavy. Oh. We're just completely defeated. Oh no. Oh. At least we know Kinemon's not dead. What's that? We've got a gear third. Gear third. What? Gomu Gomu. Gomu Gomu no! Red Rock. What is that? Gomu Gomu no Red Rock. Oh my goodness, I've got goosebumps. Kaido's down. Red Rock sent him down. That's amazing. And I will become the king of the pirates. Dun, 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 dun. This is Joy Girl.